Tonight is August 19th, 2019.
August 20th.
Huh?
August 20th.
August 20th, 2019. We're in volume 2 of Tzur Rabbanon, page 170. We are dealing with studying in Kollel today. We learned the Chazon Ish's tshuva, who definitely said that it's okay to accept payment. Now we'll see in America, what did Rav Moshe Feinstein say? So in Yoredeya, Chelik Beis, Kuftat Zayin, he says, Binyan Kabbalah's pras l'parnas ason ma'kolim, in the matter of receiving payment to be sustained from the kolim, k'dei sheyuchlu lizgadol b'torah, so you can grow in Torah. Hinei vaday shapir avdi. So he says right away, it's a good thing that they're doing. Because remember, we're going based on the Shulchan Aruch and on the previous sources that said you cannot accept payment for Torah study. So Rav Moshe is saying no problem, what they're doing is correct. The Chi Ifsik b'Ramah, if you recall last week, we read the Ramah who paskin in Yoredeya, Siman Reish Mem Vav, Shafilu Bari Mutter. We said, Yesh, I'm going to look at the Ramah on page 168, Yesh Omrim Shafilu Bari Mutter. V'lachei noagu b'chol makomos Yisrael sharav shel ir yesh lo achnasa v'sipuk manshei ha'ir, k'dei shlo yitztarech lasok b'melacha b'fnei habrios, v'yitbaza Torah k'fi ha'omer. That was the Ramah. So the Rav Moshe is citing the Ramah, that afilu bori is mutter, that even a healthy person is permitted to study Torah and to get paid for it. Umutter lechacham letalmidov lekabel haspakot bin anotnim. A chacham and his students can receive a stipend from people who give. Kidei lahachzik kidei lomdei Torah, to strengthen the hands of those who are learning. Sha'al yedei zeh yecholim lasok b'Torah b'revach, so they can study Torah sort of without dachkus, without poverty. Lachein. Lo yala al machshavascha eitzar haYetzer hara. Don't let the Yetzer hara convince you, what they're doing is bad. That sheyesh b'Kabbalah's pras lomdim mekolim upras the rabbonim u'malamdim rosh yeshiva ezechet v'chisar midas chasidus. It's only the Yetzer hara who's putting in your mind this concept that rabbonim who take money or kol yungalite who take money, that it's a bad thing. Shu rak lahasit lifrosh min haTorah. This is only the Yetzer hara is trying to get people away from studying Torah. Wouldn't it be great that we would have big philanthropists? We would have bigger Gdoli Yisrael, Ubali Hara Paskiners, because Hashem, what Hashem wants is the Daled Amos of Allah. So it's very clear that Rav Moshe supports this.
You know why the Rebbes accept money? Why do you, when you go to a Rebbe's house, let's say when they have a tzish, and you give them a check for bracha, why do they accept it? By accepting it, they're obligated to daven for that person that gave the money. If he accepts it, and he doesn't daven, therefore he's stealing the money. You understand? That's why when you go to a Rebbe's house, you give him some money.
Yeah.
Why? You ask for a bracha.
It obligates him.
He's obligated to daven
Uh-huh.
for it. But if he doesn't daven for the person I gave, it's like stealing the money.
If you're worried about that, then there are probably.
Rav Ovadia also speaks strongly.
No, the reason what I'm saying is the guy says before, the Ramah says like stealing, whatever, who said it, you know what I mean? That if you take, money from the person, it's like robbing the people.
This had to do with getting paid for studying Torah. When you go to a Rebbe, it's a different. There, you're giving money to help his institutions, but also to help his yeshivas, to help him give tzedakah.
Are we going to learn about being paid to teach Torah? Being paid teachers?
We had that already. That's called schar batola.
Right.
We don't really pay them for the teaching of the Torah. We teach them for the time that they're spending, that otherwise they could do other things. That gets around the issue. Rav Ovadia also speaks strongly about the importance of allowing college students to be compensated for their learning. Nishalti mitamid chacham asher yiras Hashem yotzro. I was asked from a certain Talmid Chacham, Eizeu derech yishkon or mebchinas halacha, which is the proper way? Ha'im tov yoter li'isparnis me'yageh kapav. Is it better that he should go to work and earn his own keep? And v'yikba itim l'Torah, he'll set aside time to study, b'shos apnai when he's free. O adif yoter lilmod kol hayom b'kol lavrechi. or maybe he should spend a whole day in a kollel. V'yisparnes, he should make his living mimaskoret from the stipend that is paid by the kollel. Asher yikabel man also kollel kiyosar avrichim. Hamaramim kol ha'omer. So after Rav Ovadia goes through the whole discussion, he says, Odif l'bocher ha'atzal l'ilmod Torah kol hayom. He says a young man should study Torah the whole day. Ulekabel maskurto l'tzorach parnasosu v'mazlikei prati o mahanasakol. Either get money privately or from the kollel. Yoter masher lasot b'mlachol b'schor kama shot b'yom l'tzorach parnasosu. More, it's a better eitzah, better advice than to spend some time working and some time learning. And v'yilamid rak b'shas ha'ponoi. V'afim ha'maskores ma'kollel zuama. And even if it's not a very good salary, umaspika lo bedochek, it only sort of provides him, he's sort of choking. Whoever studies Torah in a state of poverty, in the end, he will become wealthy. Like Hillel, who started off very poor, he ended up the Nasi. Means in the beginning you'll start small, but later on you'll grow. So the situation concerning Torah study today, both in Israel and in the diaspora, has improved dramatically since the time when Rav Moshe gave these rulings. Today there are literally tens of thousands of students studying in kollelim and yeshivas across the world of all different stripes, and a larger financial base for these institutions currently exists than did previously. Therefore, the urgency and need described by these poskim is somewhat less than it was in previous decades. Nevertheless, the importance of having Torah study take place as well as the need for rabbinic leaders and educators who have studied for many years remain. So these considerations are taken into account by a more recent postvek, Rabbi Eliezer Melamed, despite the fact that he presents a somewhat less permissive position concerning when and for how long one may study in Kol and receive compensation for it. Says the Pnei Halacha, Choshuv lahadgish, he also brings Rav Moshe and Rav Ovadia and the Chazon Ish that he says, this is not a general blanket heter, that everyone has the right to get money from the community chest. The whole heter is just in order for us to be able to grow excellent Talmidei Chachamim teachers. For example, somebody is learning for his own personal reason. He doesn't, not necessarily to teach. The Pnei Halacha says, "Odif she's parnes me'amal kapavo."
He has to learn, then he's able
Fine,
to teach.
fine, Jerry. There are people in Israel who are sitting in kollel till they're 70 years old. You understand that? That there are thousands of people who are 40, 50, 60, that's their life. That's what the Pnei Halacha is dealing with. He says, first of all, if someone is sitting in kollel but he doesn't plan to teach, he says you have no heter to be sitting in kollel. Odif she's parnes me'amel kappa v'lo melimud Torah. Better off halachically for him to, based on all the sources we learned last week, that it's really not appropriate to derive your income through Torah study. The only reason why Chazon Ish and Rav Moshe said it's the problem of modernity currently, where after the Shoah there weren't Talmidei Chachamim, there weren't Rosh Yeshiva, so we have to repopulate that. So now the Tzuvim Rabbanan, the writer of this, has moved on another 50 years. Rav Moshe wrote his Tshuvas in the 60s. Chazon Ish wrote in the 50s. We talked that there were 357 kollel students in all of Israel that Chazon Ish was dealing with. Now there are thousands. So the question is, has the halacha changed?
Well, another issue, if you read Yada's Tshuva, basically the assumption, the way you read it, is all things considered equal. In other words, if you can make, let's say, $50,000 a year in Eretz Yisrael in a kollel versus $50,000 working a job, right, and supporting yourself to learn, that's the question. But what happens if you can scrape out $20,000 in the kollel, and then your wife's going to have to go and put some hours in, right? And then you have to go get some handouts. It's a
I know, but
question.
Ravadu said, he didn't say don't go. He said, Chazal will reward you in the end. He didn't say leave the kollel. So he didn't say that. He didn't say.
Where's the?
He said like this: Afima maskores ma'kolel zuama umaspika lo bedochek. He's not getting. It's like exactly what you described. He's only getting $10,000 a year, and he's choking, and he's living in poverty. He said, he didn't give advice, leave the kollel. So you see, Rav Ovadia was supportive of this notion. So the Penina Halacha disagrees. He says, V'amnam b'dorenu, he Torah b'aya nosefet. He says, in our generation, there's another problem. Rabbi b'nei anoar, eina magim l'ramat toranit, shetaspik k'dei lahadriches chayem lo'or shel Torah. So many of the young people, they don't reach a level of Torah study in order that they could live their lives according to a Torah life. No, we want every Jew to live a Torah life. So the Penina Halacha is not saying a person shouldn't study in yeshiva. He should study in a yeshiva. And then go get a living. He's not saying drop Torah study completely. He's just advising that if a person is not planning to use his Torah learning to teach, you should not earn your parnasa that way. You should go out and get a job. He's also dealing with the Baal Tshuva movement. They want to increase their fund of knowledge in Torah. They also should invest some time studying Torah. Perhaps there's a reason to be matir, a Baal Tshuva like that, to study in the Kollel Kabbalah Milgad Asher Ilmedus Halachos Amasios V'Yisrael Ha'emunah. That means until he understands practical halacha, how to live his life as a Torah Jew and to have emunah, he could stay in Kollel that period of time.
What does the Chatzir Shalom say about this?
Say it again.
If you go to the Satmar group, what would they say about this?
So-
Would they agree?
So the Chazon Ish and Igros Moshe, we of course are the Litvish Yeshiva world.
Yes.
Rav Ovadia Yosef is a Sephardi. So in general, the Hasidic movements don't have as many kollim as the Litvisha. And in general, in Satmar and in Bells, etc., many go out to work. So they don't have the same concept. They do have kollim, and those places are meant to produce teachers, rabbonim, etc. That's how the yeshiva world treats it. But let's finish the Pnei Halacha. We're on page 172. After the young man who is studying to learn Yiddishkeit, or Baal Tshuva has gotten his appropriate basis, he says you can't just sit in Kol and collect money anymore. The way the Rambam and the Poskim said it, it's osur to accept wages for Torah learning. They should study a subject in order to be able to make a living. But of course, set aside times for Torah later. He says those people who are going to be a Rav or a teacher, they can stay longer. They're permitted to take community funds that are paying for the kollel for a longer period of time. So every individual confronted with these questions of whether to study in kollel or support others who are studying in yeshiva kollel should carefully consider the best course of action for them personally, with a rabbinic mentor who can advise them. That's personal, but we certainly have seen the width and breadth of the poskim's understanding of this. Now, even if one does not devote an entire time to Torah study, it's a mitzvah to support those who are engaged in full-time learning, either in yeshiva or kollel. One method of doing so is by giving a portion of one's stock of money to such causes. And the Shulchan Aruch and Ramah actually codified this. And in Hilchos Torah Torah and Yoredeya, it says Shulchan Aruch, Mishi yafshar lo lilmod. Somebody can't learn Torah. Mipnei she'ena yodeh klal lilmod. He has never been given the tools to study. O mipnei atirdas sheyesh lo yaspik lachem alomdim. Or he's too busy in his own profession, making a living. So he should provide funding for other people to study. Says the Ramah, v'techshav lo ki'ilu lo min ba'atzmo. And by giving money, supporting other people learning, it's as if you studied yourself. And one well-known special type of support is Yisachar Zvulun partnership. One person directly supports another person who studies Torah, and the reward is divided between them. And this is alluded to in the following pasuk in Rashi's commentary. By the brachas of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Zosa bracha, it says, "V'lizvulun amar, smach zvulun b'tzeisecha." Zvulun should be happy when he goes out. V'yisachar ba'alecha, and Yisachar in his tents. So Zvulun, we know, was involved in shipping, and he lived on the coast, and he was involved in
UPS?
import export, and he was a merchant. So as Zvulun, happy as Zvulun when he goes out, when Yisachar sits in the tent of Torah, right? Rashi says that Zvulun and Yisachar had a symbiotic relationship, where Yisachar studied and taught Torah, while Zvulun engaged in commerce and supported Yisachar financially. And Rashi adds that Zvulun is listed first, even before Yisachar, to highlight how important his contribution is. Rashi there says Zvulun v'Yisachar asu shutafot. Zvulun and Yisachar made a partnership. Zvulun lachaf yamim yishkon. Zvulun dwelled on the coast. V'yotzei leprakamatya b'sfinos. He would go out and do business in the ships. Umishtaker, he would make profit. The nosen l'toch piv shel Yisachar, and he would put the profits right in the mouth of Yisachar. V'hem yoshvim v'oskim Torah. Yisachar studied Torah. Lefichach, hikdim Zvulun Yisachar, she'Torah shel Yisachar al yedei Zvulun Yisachar. So he even comes first, because without Zvulun, Yisachar couldn't learn.
It's almost like Rambam. He had a brother that passed away. He was also a merchant and died. But he sent a lot of money to Rambam to help him support learning more and more Torah.
There you go.
And when he,
So the Gemara in Sota indicates that this was not only a one-time agreement between Zvulun and Yisachar, but serves as a paradigm throughout history for formal agreements between those who wish to support Torah scholars and the Torah scholars themselves. The conclusion of the Gemara demonstrates that the agreement is valid only if it is made before the learning takes place. It cannot take effect retroactively. Says the Gemara. What does it mean? Boz yavuzu lo in Shir Hashiri. Omer ulo lo k'Shimon achi Azarya, not like Shimon the brother of Azarya. V'lo Rav Yochanan the Bein Nasi, not like Rav Yochanan in the house of the Nasi. Ela ki Hillel v'Shevna, but rather the structure should be like Hillel and Shevna. The Chias Rav Dimi Omar Hillel v'Shevna achi havu. Hillel and Shevna were brothers. Hillel asik b'Torah, Shevna avad iska, and Shevna did business. L'sof Amalei to nara v'liflik. In the end, Shivna said to Hillel, "Let's divide and join our wealth." Yatsa baskal v'amar imitain ishas kol hen beso. That's what it says in Shir Hashirim. A person will give his whole money. So Rashi explains, Shimon achai Azarya. Tanahu
yeah, wait one second.
hang on.
Yeah, two guys.
Let's read Rashi. Tanahu b'Mishnah Kamaisa. There's Zvachim. There was an earlier Mishnah in Zvachim. The Loma Torah Yedei Echav. He studied Torah through his brother Shaya Oisek b'Prakamatya. Kidei sheyachlo b'schus lemudo shel Shimon, so that he would get the reward that Shimon would get for studying Torah. Kachu nikral Shem Azarya Achi. But the problem with Hillel and the Shavna is they didn't set it up in advance. After they did it, Shavna came, let's divide. So there the Gemara says he's not going to get the credit. It's only if you set it up in advance and you create it, then he gets the credit.
But what's the pasuk before? Imitain ish at kol havan beit.
If a person shall give, if a imitain ish is called hon beso, if a person shall give all of his riches that he has in his house, boz yavuzu lo, he would be condemned.
So what happened there? Hillel had a brother.
So Hillel, Shevna and
Yeah.
Hillel, they didn't arrive at this agreement preemptively. Hillel went to learn, Shevna went to study. After Shevna made a lot of money, came to Hillel, you give me half of your reward and I'll give you the money. He doesn't get the credit for the learning. It's only if the partnership is set up beforehand that he gets the credit. Now, how exactly does this work? Does the Zvulun partner really receive half of the award for the learning of the Yisachar partner? And the Yisachar loses out on half of his reward? So, the Baal HaFlaw, Rav Pinchas Horowitz, on Maseches Ksubas, claims that even as Zvulun receives half of the reward, it doesn't detract from the reward of Yisachar. That means Yisachar gets the full reward. It's just Zvulun gets 50% of it. Says the Hafla, Ela ha'inyan shekol echad mekabel scharo mishlam. Everybody gets the full reward. K'moshe amru, hamashal miner shemadlik bimenu. For example, you light a candle from another candle. Ein machzer oyer, doesn't decrease the light from the candle that you lit from. Kena machzikim noitlim scharo meis Hashem in hashamayim. The ones who are machzik Torah, they get their reward. But they ain't nokim chas v'shon b'chelkal shatam l'chacham. But it's not like it doesn't come on cheshbon of the guy studying Torah. However, Rav Moshe, in Igris Moshe disagrees. He says Yisachar is reduced and given partially to Zvulun. Says the Igris Moshe, Avalachatz in Yoredeya Dalid, Lamed Zayin Dalid, Avalachatzi schar muchrich Yisachar litin Zvulun, bad chelko. Yisachar has to give this 50%. After Harbe Yosem and Chelko shel Zvulun. Even though it's much greater than the chelik of Zvulun. Dehu kishtaim she'etidu lakis. It's like two people in a purse. Right? Two individuals who deposited money into a purse. And the one with the larger portion needs the one with the smaller portion. We're all agree that in a regular case, the profits are divided in half. Rav Moshe is referring to a Gemara which states that if two invest money, but one invests more than the other, they still divide the profits equally if the money was used in the way they planned. As both investments were necessary to earn the profits. So too says Rav Moshe, that Yisachar and Zvulun must split the reward of Yisachar equally. Even though he spent a lot more time studying.
I would go back into the Hillel and Shevna.
Yeah.
Hillel had no money. Shevna had a lot of money, so he wanted to help.
At the end, after the fact. He does in that.
After the fact, he wanted to help his brother.
Hillel sat in yeshiva for 20 years.
Right.
Shevna never said a word to him.
Exactly.
20 years later, Shevna shows up. He's a big businessman. Now he wants to give Hillel money.
You know,
He can give Hillel all the money he wants.
what
He's
does he
not
get in
going to.
return?
He's not going to get the credit for the Torah learning.
What do you mean? When he says, "I want half of whatever," what's he going to get? What is he getting?
The
from
reward
Hillel?
of the Torah learning that Hillel did. It's a mitzvah. You get reward from Hashem. So the Yisachar Zvulun, if you set it up in advance and you say, listen, Jerry, you're going to go study in yeshiva. I'm going to go do business, and I'm going to provide your sustenance. And you agree to that. You're going to give up, according to Rav Moshe, half of your Torah learning reward, and I'm going to get half of it. According to the Baal HaFlo, you don't give anything up. I just get, they figure out what yours is, and I get 50% of that. Besides my money, I also get 50% of Torah. Either way, it's good for the Zvulun guy.
Yeah.
You understand? But Hillel and Shevna didn't set it up properly. That's all it's saying. Now, Rav Aaron Leib Steinman, the Gadol Hador, who passed away recently, commented that according to the approach of Rav Moshe, it would seem that Yisachar should receive an entire half of the earning as Zvulun according to this agreement. But he knows that the Chazon Ish disagreed and held that Yisachar only receives what is necessary for him to support himself. Right? According to Rav Moshe Svirelei, says Zeshu Tafut Mamish, Zvulun tzarich latet Yisachar chatzim mima shemarviach. The way Rav Steinman's learning in Rav Moshe is that Zvulun has to give Mamish half of his income to Yisachar, whether he needs it or not, in order to get the 50% reward for the Torah. Says Rav Steinman, Aval Chazon Ish Tzalo Sarakach, V'luchor Loshen Rashi V'nois L'toch Piv Shel Yisachar Mashma Shenois L'rak Kedei Parnasoso. You don't have to give the guy half of your
Just what
business.
he needs to live.
Just what he needs to live.
Yeah.
Dainu Masha Tzarech Lachnis L'Piv V'lo Yosef. Okay. Now we get to women in Talmud Torah. Very interesting subject. Page 176. Up until now, our discussion of Talmud Torah has been only on men. What is the halacha with regard to women? Are they obligated to study Torah in any form? And if so, is it a different obligation than of men? Are they even permitted to study Torah? And has the answer to that question changed over time? So we're going to survey this classic sources and the contemporary opinions.
I have a question just to relate to the previous thing and
Yes.
this as well.
Yes.
What if a woman makes a deal with the yeshiva guy?
No, what?
A woman makes the deal that she's going to work and support the guy to learn. Does she get credit for his learning?
Why would we think not?
Okay.
I mean,
But so the question is going to be here.
Your
If women don't
Are you
need to
thinking
learn,
of
all they need to
asking
do is
Magda?
support. What?
Thinking of asking Magda?
your wife gets a reward for enabling you to come to a shiur. Same thing. just enabling you to come to
I'll
church.
make
You get a
call right
reward
now.
even though the woman is not
Yes.
obligated?
So it's a good
Okay.
question. I think it's a good question. Because remember, what reward is Zvulun getting? He's getting reward of limud Torah,
Yes.
right? And if women are not machayiv in limud Torah, perhaps Harold is a good
Then
question.
maybe it's a
It's
waste.
not. There's
Yeah.
no shot. So
Okay.
let's see where we end up. What is the status of their obligation or not of that? So it may come down to the following. We know, for example, mitzvahs aseh shazman grama,
Right.
mitzvahs that are tied to time, such as shaking the lulav or listening to the shofar. Women are not obligated to that.
Shabbos, kashrus, nida, they are.
No, no.
Yeah, she's not
Let me-
obligated, but
Let me
she
form.
could be obligated.
Let me formulate my point.
Okay.
The mitzvahs that women are not obligated to perform. There is a machlokas poskim whether women are even allowed to accept upon themselves to perform that mitzvah. We Ashkenazim hold yes, they do. So, for example, our women shake the lulav, but there are poskim that hold the earlier. Either there's Sephardic poskim, and we'll go. We will have another time. We'll have a time to discuss that. But according to those opinions, if a woman is not mechuyev to do the mitzvah, she's not allowed to take it upon herself to do the mitzvah. In our shitas, in Ashkenazic world, they get credit for it. They don't get the same credit as a man because greater is the mitzvah va'oseh than the ain't a mitzvah va'oseh. So when you are obligated to do a mitzvah and you do it, you get more reward than a woman who is not obligated to do it but chooses to do it. She gets reward,
Yeah.
and she's allowed to do it. As again, there are some who say she's not even allowed to perform that mitzvah since she's not obligated. So the question will be, if we're going to come out that women are not obligated to study Torah, are they allowed to accept it upon themselves? And do they get schar for that? So that might be an answer to what you posed. If even though they're not obligated, they're allowed to accept upon themselves. So therefore, she has some shayches. So therefore, she'd have shayches to be Yisachas Voln as well. But I think it's a very good question. So what does it say in Kiddushin? Chav Tesom and Beis. So the Gemara says, from where do we know that a woman is not mechayiv in limud Torah? Dichsiv, v'limadatem ulemadatem. Limadatem means to teach. Ulemadatem means to learn. Meaning, and there's a connection. Kol shemitzuva lilmod mitzava l'lamed. Whoever is obligated to study is required to teach. The kol she'ena mitzuva lilmod. Whoever is not required to study, ena mitzuva l'lamed. There's no requirement to teach. So the shaila is, iu minolan de lo machayv l'melef nafshe. So where do we see the source that a woman is not mechayiv to study herself? Because we connected it. If you have a chiyuv to study, you have a chiyuv to teach. But if you don't have a chiyuv, to study, you have no chiyuv to teach. So where is the source that a woman has no chiyuv to study? T'chsiv, v'limadatem ulamadatem. Kol sha'acheri mitzuvim lalamdo. If somebody else has a commandment to teach you, so mitzav lalamed is atzmo. He has a commandment to teach himself. Kol she'en acher mitzav lalamdo. But if a person, there's nobody who has an obligation to teach you, and we're going to see in a minute, nobody has an obligation to teach a woman. Ein mitzav lamed is atzmo. Such a person is not required to teach himself. Uminayin she'en acher mitzav lalamdo. Where is the source that nobody has a chiyuv to teach women? The Amar Kra, v'limadatem osam esmeichem. It's in Kriya Shema. You have an obligation to teach your sons, v'lo b'noseichem, and not your daughters. So you are not obligated to teach your daughters. So since we've connected, nobody has an obligation to teach you, you have no obligation to teach yourself. If I have no obligation to teach myself, I have no obligation to learn myself. So according to the Gemara, we derive from the series of interpretations quoted that since others are not obligated to teach women Torah, because of this b'neichem v'lo b'noseichem, consequently they are not obligated to study Torah themselves, and therefore not obligated to teach their children. So at first glance it seems that although women are not obligated to study Torah, it is still permitted to do so, like any other mitzvah in the Torah, from which women are exempt, but may fulfill should they so desire, like we talked about, time-bound mitzvahs such as hearing the shofar. So this doesn't go into the machlokas, but there's indeed a machlokas where we Ashkenazim paskin that way. However, there's an additional passage in the Mishnah in Sota that complicates this picture. The Mishnah is discussing a Sota, a married woman who is suspected by her husband of committing adultery and is brought to the Beis HaMikdash to undergo the special ceremony described in the Torah, the Sota, drinking the Sota water. Although the Torah states that if she is guilty, the Sota waters mentioned there will cause her to die, the Mishnah notes that there are some cases, exceptional cases, that will protect her from death.
Well, even though she's guilty?
Even though she's guilty, it will be postponed or even wiped out. and cites a dispute that is relevant to our issue. Says the Mishnah, Im yesh la zechut, haisatola bla. That means, if you remember, the Torah describes a very gruesome way of dying, that she would drink the water and her stomach would implode, and it would happen right then and there in front of you. Says the Mishnah that if this is a woman who had otherwise merits, she had zechuyos, she would be suspended. Yesh zchut tola shana achash, she would be delayed for a year. Yesh zchut beis shnayim, maybe 2 years. Yesh zchut tola gimel shnayim. Mikan oimer, ben azay chayav adam l'lamed es bito Torah. So from here, Ben Azai says a person should teach his daughter Torah. She'im tishte teda shazchus toilala. So if she knows Torah, because Ben Azai says that a father should teach her this, and she will know that if she doesn't die immediately after she drank the soda water, that it was her meritorious behavior and her zechuyos that protected her. So it's worthy to teach a daughter Torah for that knowledge alone. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees, and he says, "Kol hamelamed bito Torah lom de tiflus." It's a bad thing. Do not teach your daughters Torah. It will lead to promiscuity. Eventually, let's see what it says. Says the Gemara, "Tiflus al kedaitach." What, you're teaching your Torah is going to lead to promiscuity? Ela ema keilu lam de tiflus. It's as if you taught her to become promiscuous. What's this? Amravo, my time at Rabbi Eliezer. What is this based on? T'chsiv, it's a pasuk. Ani chochma shachanti arma. Wisdom, I dwell with cunning. Kivan shenichnas chochma ba'adam nichnasa imo armumis. When a person becomes smart, he learns how to, dre a run. So women, they'll learn how to sneak, they'll learn how to hide, they'll learn, it'll increase promiscuity. That's what the Gemara says.
Okay.
Like a
So it seems that the dispute between the Tanoim, so we have Machlekes Tanoim. Ben Azai said you should teach your daughter Torah. Eliezer said you shouldn't. So it revolves around considerations specific to the Sota, and whether it is preferable to know that she has merit to delay her punishment, or it's preferable not allow her the opportunity to use Torah wisdom inappropriately. It seems that many Rishonim understood this dispute as more global. The Rambam ruled in accordance with Rabbi Eliezer, and understood it as a general directive against teaching a daughter Torah. In addition, the Rambam cites the first passage from Kiddushin, that women are exempt from the mitzvah, and adds that they still may receive reward for performing an optional mitzvah. Says the Rambam Hilchos Talmud Torah in Halacha Aleph Yud Gimel, Isha Shalom de Torah. He says right away that a woman who studies Torah, Yesh la schar, she gets reward. Eina k'schar ha'ish. Of course, it's not like the reward of a man, mipnei shalon it's David, because she was not commanded to study. The chola osa davar she'ena mitzuva alav lasoso ein schar k'schar mitzvah she'asa elapachos mimenu. Rambam says very clearly, the reward that someone gets when he's commanded to do something is greater than the reward that you get if you do a mitzvah and you're not, huh? It sounds kind of, you would think that a person who's not obligated and jumps to do it, but that's the Torah. That's the way the Torah works. Because we are Avdei Hashem. It's more important to be an Eved Hashem. Right? At the end of the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu is described as Moshe Eved Hashem at the end of his life. That's the ultimate. So
when Shira Smiles, remember Shira Smiles? You remember her?
Yes, I do.
When she used to speak on Shabbos, it was only ladies.
okay.
Men were not allowed in there.
Okay.
Why? Does this have anything to do with it?
No, tznius. So that you could take this. This is not part of the Tzuvim Rabbanon, but up until recently, so we didn't have women Talmidei Chachamim who were capable of teaching Torah. I said, up until recently, the most schools, when I went to Hillel or even the Beis Yaakovs, all had male teachers. Baruch Hashem, in the last 30, and we're not talking about of course we had massive Talmidei Chachamim, Nachama Leibowitz. We're talking about on a regular general basis. In the last 20, 30 years, we are producing many great women scholars, the Yoetzet Halacha, Toana, who are very in-depth. In my opinion, and I always had a problem with male teachers teaching girls. There's problems with tznius, and there's problems with a lot of things that's not appropriate. Not only that, when I had a teacher, Rabbi Gottesman or whatever, they weren't just teachers, they were role models for us as men looking up to a male figure. Women have the same thing. If you had a great woman teacher, so they would serve as role models, how to be a mother and how to be a great, because women are different than men. So in our time, and we're seeing it, more and more educators are women. And so it's a matter of tznius that when Rabbi...
By the way, the education system for the woman when it comes to teachers is much better than men.
And it might be great because they get a formal education. Because they go to teachers' seminaries and special institutes for teachers, and men do it less. So pedagogically. So I think we will continue to see in the Beis Yaakovs, and maybe not the Beis Yaakovs because they're a little bit more traditional, and they still, men teachers are there, but less and less because they're not producing as many women teachers as the non-Haredi world, where are producing tremendous number of women teachers. So you'll see our young girls will have more and more female teachers, mainly for tznius reasons. Says the Rambam, so it says like this, the Rambam. He says, even though women get schar, a man is not supposed to teach his daughter. Now remember, the Rambam is talking the year 1100. Generally, women were not educated. They weren't sent to school. They were kept at home. They helped in the house. And there was no formal education. We're not talking about Jewish women. We're talking about all women. So you have to understand who the Rambam is writing, when he's writing. That they were not, their minds were not mechuvanos, were not set up to study. And therefore, they would turn the Torah that they would get taught into sort of idle matters that were not the real thing. So, based on that, remember Rabbi Eliezer said, however, it qualifies the Rambam, more in B'tor Shebal Peh. It's a major important statement of the Rambam here, which we will see come back. The Rambam is learning that when Rabbi Eliezer said in the Gemara that whoever teaches Torah is teaching Tiflus, he says that only refers to Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law. Aval Torah Shebichsav lo yilamed usalachatchila ve'im lamda ena k'malamda Tiflus. He says you still shouldn't study. You shouldn't teach your daughter Torah Shebichsav lechatchila, but b'diavad, if she studied it, it's not like teaching her Tiflus. So that's a big chiluk in the Rambam. So it seems that the Rambam understood that it is permitted for women to study Torah, but in practice it's not advisable in most situations, both with regard to Tanakh, but it's not considered Tiflus, and certainly is the oral Torah where it is considered Tiflus. And the Shulchan Aruch used nearly the exact language as the Rambam. According to the sources we've seen so far, it would seem that in most cases, women are exempt from the mitzvah of Talmud Torah and should not be taught Torah either. This is difficult to understand, as there are other sources which indicate that women do have an obligation to study certain areas of Torah. So, according to Shulchan Aruch, women must recite Birchas HaTorah. The brachos on Torah study recite every morning. It says in Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Nashim Mevarchos Birchas HaTorah. According to the Bir Halacha, one of the reasons for this practice is that women are indeed obligated to study halachot that pertain to them. Nida, Kashrus, and Hatan, the Chayvas Limud Adinim Shalahem. So again, we have the Beis HaLevi explaining in this, right, Rav Soloveitchik's great-grandfather, explains in the same passage brought in Talmud Torah, that although women are not obligated in Torah's story for its own sake, that means Torah Lishma, they're obligated in studying Torah in order to know the practical Allah. Says the Beis HaLevi, ala Torah, V'gam anoshim, she'ena mechuyavos b'limud Torah, v'kol makom mechuyavos lilmod b'mitzvos hanoagas b'hen. Even though they have no obligation to study Torah, they have a mitzvah to study those things that apply to them. Kamodi Yisuf Beis Yosef, like the Beis Yosef on the tour wrote, Siman Mem Zayin B'Shem HaRokech, to B'Shem Hachim Avarchos Birchos HaTorah. That's the reason why they make the blessing on the Torah in the morning. Omnam B'Nashim, Yesh Od Maila Achas Al Nashim. But men have a certain leg up. The Nashim B'Limudam Ena Mekayim L'Shum Mitzvah Sasei. Rak Havoy Mavor L'Kim Mitzvah. It's a method of being able to Mekayim a mitzvah that they have to study how to do. It's like a Hechet Timtza how to do the mitzvah. But it's not like they get, they're not Mekayim any mitzvah when they study that. It's just a preface to the ability to Mekayim mitzvahs nida or mitzvahs kashrus. It's not, it doesn't accomplish anything when they study by themselves. But when a man studies, he's performing a mitzvah. So this understanding that women are indeed obligated to study the halachot that relate to the observance of practical halacha is brought by the Ramah as well. Umikol makom, says the Ramah, chayeves ha'isha lilmod dinim hashayachim leisha, the isha ina chayeves l'lamed es benat Torah. A woman is not, there's no chiyuv to teach your son Torah. Like the father has the chiyuv, not the mother. Based on this, it should be permitted for women to study practical halacha, at least in a manner which at least summarizes the bottom line for each issue. But what is the halacha with regarding to studying other subjects, such as Tanakh or Jewish philosophy? According to the Rambam and Shulchan Aruch, it seems that even if it's technically permitted, it should be discouraged. This too is difficult to understand in our modern world, where many women have received a high-level yeshiva and secular education. How can we explain the current practice of women in most parts of the Orthodox community, even in most of the Haredi world, to study these subjects? In Beis Yaakov, they study Tanakh, they study Machshavas Yisrael, they study Mesilas Yesharim, and included in their educational curriculum. And what is the halacha concerning Gemara? Is there any basis for permitting Gemara study for women who wish to engage in it? So, in the Siddur of Rav Shimshon Rafal Hirsch, they bring Nashim Einan Chayavis Lios Lamdaniot. So women are not mechuyev to become Torah scholars. Liot Bekiyas B'Midrashei Halacha, to become an expert in darshaning. Kivazeh Yasku Be'ikar Nashim. Says Rav Shimshon Rafal Hirsch, men in general should be occupied in that. Ulam, nevertheless, Havanat HaMikra, understanding what the psukim are saying, V'otay yidiyad rashot liyiras Hashem, and even the deep understanding in order to be someone who fears God, Hamaviyah lishmiras mitzvahs kabdonis u'lekiyuma mashalem, in order to be able to do the mitzvahs properly, he shayeches li'itzuv harevach b'lev shel b'noseinu. This should be involved in our daughters should it should inform their hearts. B'diyuk k'mo shel abonim.
So it has nothing to do with if she's married, that it would downgrade her husband if she knows how to learn more than her husband.
That's
So
just
far, we
that would
haven't-
just be an
we haven't had
embarrassment.
an approach,
Tosfos brings a thing. There's in brachas. If a wife has to be motzi her husband because he doesn't know how to read, it's embarrassment to her. That doesn't have to do with halacha. That doesn't do with these obligations. No, that would just be a humiliating thing if the wife would know more than the husband. So Rav Hirsch is appearing to follow the approach of the Ramah, that women must learn halachos relevant to them. But he expanded it. According to Rav Hirsch, this principle includes any area of Torah that is necessary for women to receive a spiritual level of fear of Hashem. For example, the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lotzato's Derech Hashem, or the Mesilas Yesharim, which Chovos Halavovos, many Musar Sforim would be appropriate, that brings somebody to Yiras Hashem, which brings you to careful observance of halacha, in addition to the knowledge of halacha itself. So you see, Rav Hirsch is expanding the corpus of what they think, and the Beis Yaakovs, because let's say they are the most if they are teaching something, it's certainly acceptable to halalacha. So you see, Rav Hirsch, they are relying on this statement of Rav Hirsch that expands significantly the corpus that's being taught even to the Haredi women, and which includes Tanakh and Machshava as well. Now, another potential explanation we can derive even to look. Let's look at the Rabbah more carefully. It says Shemipnei Rov Hanoshim. The majority of women ain't daita mechuvanas l'slamed. Hein motzias divrei Torah divrei avoy. So they're going to be medayik from this that there are some women that certainly will use the Torah properly, right? According to the Rambam, the reason for Rabbi Eliezer's issue that one should not teach Torah to women is that most women will not understand its meaning properly. But according to the Prisha, with Yeshua Falk, who's the commentary on the Torah, infers that if women wishes to study Torah, study of her own initiative, it's permissible, as this demonstrates that she's not one of the majority who will misunderstand, and she will understand it properly. Says the Prisha, if she studied herself, she's not part of the majority. That's why the Rambam wrote that she would get reward if she studied. She's studying Torah in a way that she's not going to use the Torah in an inappropriate way. But the father shouldn't teach it. She might, we don't know for sure that she's not going to use the Torah improperly. Now, very interesting. Rav Shmuel Archivolti, who was an Italian in the 16th and the 1500s, just want to comment that a lot of modernity in the Jewish world began in Italy at the time of the Renaissance. For example, the Sforno was an Italian physician. One of the first places that allowed Orthodox Jews, because remember, at that time, even in Italy, they were living in ghettos. In Venice, the Venice ghetto was established 1300s, 1400s. However, because of the Renaissance focus on humanism, the shift back to sort of human beings. So there was a medical school in Padua. We find in the early 1500s, many Orthodox Jews were accepted to that medical school and became doctors. Well, when you go to a medical school, you have to study science, you have to study liberal arts, and so you have the first beginnings of Talmidei Chachamim, who knew how to learn, who were also exposed. It didn't happen in Poland, didn't happen in Russia, did not happen in Germany. In Germany, they didn't have rights yet. Remember, Moses Mendelssohn was the first Jew allowed in Berlin in 1780. So it was in Italy. That's why you're going to see, it's very interesting that you're going to see this person comment on women, and because the humanism also began allowing more women to study. It was part of the whole Renaissance movement. Says Rav Shimon Arkivolti, B'yosa isha muchan lekabel shefa chachamos. A woman is prepared to accept wisdom. We can separate. Says Rav Shimon that when they were talking about that it's going to lead the woman off the wrong derech, that's when the father tried to teach his daughter when she was 5 years old or 8 years old, when her mind wasn't acceptable yet. The Vadaki Aglav, the Ikel Lemechas Sherova Noshim Daitin Kalos, B'div Ravai, Ukeruban, Ken Chatu Mikotz Ruach, Onam, Hanashim Asher Nedvali Bon Osana Lekirva Lamlacha Mlucha. Adult women who are now coming close on their own to wanting to understand the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Melechas Hashem, Mitzad B'chirazon B'to, because they're choosing the right way to go. Hein Heina Talena B'har Hashem Tishkada B'mokum Kodsho, Kinashem Mofeithena. He's praising them. We should strengthen them. So I think it's just interesting that you're beginning to see the beginnings of sort of a more modern approach coming from Italy, where they were exposed as I described.
There were no women artists. There were no women painters in the Renaissance. No
Right.
women authors. Nothing. So they never had a chance to. They would
No.
never teach the women.
No, but you see, you see the beginnings of, in general, human wisdom, and that women have a little bit more rights.
Right,
begin at the top. Now, we just brought Rav Hirsch, the Prisha, the Mayan Ganim, Should that be accepted as practical halacha for the mainstream Orthodox community? And how far should these ideas be taken? Until the 20th century, those women that studied Torah based on these permissive approaches were generally in a small minority. And women were often taught whatever they needed to know at home by their parents. However, due to the massive changes in society that took place during the 20th century, poskim such as Chafetz Chaim, let's remember, Chafetz Chaim passed away in 1933, agreed that it was necessary for girls to be officially taught a more complete curriculum of Torah subjects, and therefore gave his agreement and blessing to the founding of the Beis Yaakov movement by Sarah Schneer in Poland. And here is the explanation in the Likutei Halachos. Says this is very important mimer of the Chafetz Chaim. Nira dechol zeh davka bizmanim shel fanenu. He says all of those sources that we quoted, that women can't be studied, can't learn Torah, etc. It's all previous generations. Shekol echel hayadar b'mokom avosav. So first of all, in previous generations, people lived in the same village for hundreds of years. The Kabbalah Savos haya chazak me'od, and the transmission from father to daughter, from generation to generation, was very strong. Eitzel kol echad ve'echad. Lihisnaig b'derech shedar ko avosav. And therefore, people followed what their generations did. Kimamar katuv sha'al avicha v'yagetcha. Like it says, you should ask your father and he will tell you. B'zayinu yicholim lomar shelo tilmod Torah. In that environment, it was appropriate to say that women shouldn't study Torah. V'tismoch b'hanaga al avosei yisharim. And the women would have relied on what they received from their parents. Aval ka'ed, says the Chafetz Chaim, in our day, on page 182, ba'avnoseinu harabim, with our sins, shekabbalah sa'of nisrofif me'od me'od. So the Chafetz Chaim was aware of what was going on. People fleeing, people leaving their families' home. You know, the Mesorah between parent and child was getting weak. Ubiprat also shmagin latzman lilmod ksav v'losh, especially people who are learning how to write in the secular vernacular and the language. Bevadai mitzvah rabba lalamdem chumash v'gam neviim uksuvim umusrei Chazal. We should teach them Tanakh, Chazal. He says, like Maseches Avos, Pirkei Avos, the Sefer Menorah Ma'or. These are Musar Sforim. Kadeshi Tamet Etzlam. Senerana is basically psukim. Senerana was medrashim on the psukim. Kadeshi Tamet Etzlam Inyan Emunatena Kedusha. Yilavhachi Olosh Yasur Legabi B'derech Hashem. This is when he gave the heter to Sarah Schneer to teach in Beis Yaakov. He did it, it was sort of a hoyrah shah. He did it sort of as an emergency. V'yavral kol yisod yadas. So although this ruling was met with some opposition over time, it was almost universally accepted. And girls' education across nearly the entire spectrum of the Orthodox Jewish world now includes Tanakh, Machshava, practical halacha, and Musar. Now, nevertheless, even today, there are a number of radically different positions concerning how to implement women's Torah education. And we'll briefly survey the range of approaches within the next few sources without taking a stand as to which should be followed, as the common practice depends sometimes upon the community. So the Chafetz Chaim himself did not permit women to study Mishnah or Gemara. And this is the practice in most Haredi communities today.
Let's ask why. Why?
The Psakim Utshuvos, which is based largely on the opinion of the Satmar Rav and Rav Shmuel Vosner. Rav Vosner passed away a few years ago. I was zochet to meet the two Dayanim in the Beis Din of Rav Vosner, Rav Shmuel Lezer Stern, and the other one, I forgot his name. They describe a very limited allowance for teaching girls in school, in that even the subjects permitted by the Chafetz Chaim may only be taught in a simple fashion without in-depth analysis. And this approach is followed in some portions of the Haredi community.
Why? But why?
He mentions, we'll read it. By the way, he mentions as well that Rav Mosner took note that even the Haredi community, he says, unfortunately, his opinion, some do not follow these guidelines. However, he adds that according to Rav Binyamin Zilber, institutions that prepare women to become teachers are permitted to teach them Chumash together with Meforshim, even according to the, but look into the guidelines the Psakim Utshuvos say. It's not permitted to teach women everything. Ki haTorah nitzchis, the Torah is forever. And if Yimamru Chazal, Shu Kamalamdem Tiflus, if at one point Chazal said teaching them Torah is like teaching Tiflus, Kenu B'chol Adoros, that statement's got to remain at least in some way for all generations. V'divrei Chazal u'gzerasom lo yishtanu lo'olam. So he says, "Haheter hu rak l'lamdan Tanach u'mesechta Avos v'sifrei Musar, avol bishar advarim ein shum heter." He says the other things like Mishnah, Gemara is not permitted. V'gam ofen limud Tanach. Listen to this. Lo ya'im ha'meforshim ha'amukim k'ma Ramban ve'Evan HaEzra. You can teach them Rashi, but you want it not Ramban. V'gam perish Rashi al Torah hu molei v'godesh b'harbe makomos b'droshas ma'Gemara. He wants to say that Rashi also is full of droshes. El tzarich l'lamdan Rav Pshutin shel yonim im Musar Chazal v'chem midrashim shem nogim liras shamayim musar u'tznius. Now, Rav Moshe Feinstein also ruled that one should not teach Torah Shabbat Peh to women or girls. He wrote this in a tshuva to Rav Elias Svei, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Philadelphia Yeshiva. But he does not discuss whether Tanakh and other subjects may be taught in depth. He says in Igros Moshe, "B'dover shnei mitzu batei sefer liyalodos u'lenaros shenikru b'shem Beis Yaakov u'chadome." In the schools called Beis Yaakov, sherotzim ha'hanala v'hamorim, that the principals and the teachers lilmod imahem mishnayot. So even the Beis Yaakov, they wanted to teach the Mishnayos. In the Rambam posuk Rav Lezer b'sota shein l'lamed livnos l'toyra. Achu mechalek. Remember, the Rambam made it chiluk. Shekilu l'lamed tiflos are only b'tor shabal peh. U'tor shebechsav ena kam l'lamed tiflos. Ach l'chachatchila gam zein l'lamed. Right? That's the Rambam. Al kol ponim Mishnayos shu tor shabal peh tzovach chachom shol yilamdem. Says Mishnayos we should not teach. V'kilu l'lamdem tiflos. L'chein tzarich l'monim mizeh. We should prevent it. V'rak pirkei ovos mishum shu inyoni musar. V'nagos tovis yesh lamda behezber l'oros lavav torah lamdas tovis. Aval shar masachtos. Rav Eliezer Melamed, who's the Pninei Halacha who lives today, appears to adopt a more liberal opinion, commonly practiced with various nuances in many religious Zionist circles in Israel today, that in theory it is permitted for women to study all aspects of Torah if they wish to do so, including Gemara, based on a similar premise to those developed by the Prisha and others mentioned above, where they said, if you have a woman who's coming and she's interested and she wants to do it, it's not going to lead to tiflus. We quoted the Prisha on the tour. Nevertheless, he explains that this permission is not necessarily the standard to be followed for the entire educational system. Therefore, other women or girls who do not express such an interest should not be taught Torah Shabbat Peh material, though they should be taught subjects related to Emunah and Musar in detail. Says the Pninei Halacha, "V'af she'ein mitzvah she'isa tasuk b'limud haTalmud be'iyun." It's no mitzvah that a woman should study Gemara, imam meforshim harishonim v'achronim mikol mokom boru shemutar l'chol isha hame'unyonas l'lmod Torah l'shem shamayim. If a woman has l'shem shamayim as the sincere desire to do so, it's permitted. V'aframu Chazal she'im asas haken yesh la zchus. She gets merit lamrot she'einu mitzuv al kach. V'chein hayu noshim u'furtzamas b'Yisrael shenodu k'talmidos chachamos balo she'ir koma. And we have famous Jewish women or known Torah scholars. You mentioned Nechama Leibovitz and others. Kol shar anoshim she'elam cheshek miyuchad l'samik b'Torah hadracha klalit shel Chazal hi shelo la'amik b'pilpul hashitus. Hashitas, not to go into pilpul. Ela lilmod b'behirot et sikum halachot. They should learn sort of the summary, practical halacha, hamasiot b'tameim, and the reasons why we do it. Ula'amik b'sodos hamunah v'musar. Rav Soloveitchik went a step further from these positions and actively supported the study of Gemara for women as part of the regular educational curriculum, at least concerning tractates related to practical halacha, such as in Moed. And he even gave the inaugural Gemara Shmir for women in Stern College in 1977. He also advised including Gemara as part of the standard curriculum for Maimonides High School in Boston. Now, Rav Meir Tursky, his grandson, writes the following in explanation of his grandfather's position. This was in Tradition magazine. The halacha prohibiting Torah study for women is not indiscriminate or all-encompassing. There's complete unanimity that women are obligated to study halachot pertaining to mitzvahs which are incumbent upon them. Gentlemen, we saw that tonight in the Ramah. Clearly, men are permitted to provide instruction in these areas. A father's obligation of chinuch relates equally to sons and daughters regarding these areas. The prohibition of teaching the oral law to women relates to optional study. If ever circumstances dictate that the study of the oral Torah is necessary to provide a firm foundation for faith, such study becomes obligatory and obviously lies beyond the pale of any prohibition. Undoubtedly, the Rav's prescription was more far-reaching than that of the Chafetz Chaim and others. Remember, the Chafetz Chaim said, we have an emergency. If we don't teach, we're going to forget. Rav Soloveitchik basically extended the emergency. He said, we must teach women all aspects of Torah learning because of the kind of world we're living in today. The difference in magnitude between what the Chofetz Chaim permitted and Rav Soloveitchik should not obscure their fundamental agreement that intuitively it is clear that the guidelines of the Talmud and Masechta Sota were never intended for our epoch. This is not an instance of modernism, but this is a Torah intuition. So according to Rav Twersky, Rav Soloveitchik agreed fundamentally with the opinion of the Chofetz Chaim that we must permit and encourage women to study Torah in response to the challenges of modernity. However, in contrast to the Chofetz Chaim, Rav Soloveitchik felt that the study of Gemara is also necessary for women in our times, who are well educated and evolved in every aspect of modern society. I am going to leave that Rav Lichtenstein until next week. We will also start mitzvahs gerus, the laws of conversion, which are very interesting halachos, next week as well. Shikoyach, I don't think we have a minion, unfortunately.